I want to talk about that Bezos has launched his 100 billion Project Prometheus. The title I've given this is Physical AI Gets Its SoftBank Moment. So Jeff Bezos, Amazon fame, is raising 100 billion for a fund that isn't a venture model. What he's doing is he's buying up, well, this is the plan, there's nothing has happened yet, buy up companies in major industrial sectors and modernize them with AI. So Prometheus is the Greek mythology, it's the Titan who created humanity and then stole fire for them. This isn't venture, this is the PE-ification of physical AI in my world. Now, I've always loved the idea of doing roll-ups, and I think this is an incredibly timely, strong strategy. They're going to design the playbook for manufacturing, buy up the companies, and then apply the playbook and the tech. It's buyout meets digital transformation at a scale we've never seen. Does it validate the category or swallow it or jiggle it in some other ways? Incidentally, the SoftBank Vision Fund is the only private vehicle to ever raise that much cash, and that was heavily reliant on the Middle East, which may or may not be doing stuff right now, yet to be seen. But this is a massive chunk of change. What do we think of Bezos's 100 billion Project Prometheus?
So, I mean, the SoftBank moment without Massa instead of switch out Massa, switch in Bezos. No, I probably, for this kind of thing, I probably would have Bezos on the bench. So look, as a reminder to set the context here, Bezos raised a $6.2 billion seed round for Project Prometheus at the end of last year, which is a startup, which he raised with Vic Bajaj, who was a chemist and physicist formerly of Google X and co-founder of AI incubator Foresight Labs. That is a startup working on AI for the physical economy. So in a way, like what Anthropic is to, what Anthropic and LLMs and OpenAI are to the knowledge economy and to software, and to knowledge work, to law, etc. This is to factories manufacturing, to the physical world. The sort of second part of this is that he's now looking to raise 100 billion to roll up old economy manufacturing companies and probably plug Project Prometheus into, or the Prometheus startup into these
where
companies.
There's no margin, right? Looking behind the scenes, you're looking at a lot of the companies that they're looking to buy on the strategy. They're really tight margins. They're really, really hard businesses because they're so antiquated, I think is the
And this is, the market, just to step back, the market here is scarily big. So, the information economy, which LLMs touch, right? The software world is touching roughly $20 trillion of global GDP, which is, just under 20% of global GDP. Like the physical economy is like all the rest, so that's like 80 to 90 trillion dollars of global GDP. Industries like that have been untouched by software for years. So I think it's hugely exciting. It's a massive big swing. He's, probably raising money in the Middle East is not as easy as he thinks at the moment, right? But ignoring that aside, this is an exciting project. You would never bet against Jeff Bezos. There is so much to go out here. We've talked about physical AI a lot on this pod, but I think we're only at the beginning of this. And this is actually quite relevant for Europe for a few reasons. So one is that Europe does actually have amazing research and talent in robotics. Obviously, we know in AI too. Europe is stacked with legacy manufacturing companies. Something like 20% of European GDP is manufacturing, whereas it's only 10% in the US. Europe has an aging workforce, shocking labor laws. And at the moment, there are no homegrown champions in this area. We talked about actually all of the robotics companies in Europe being sold off to elsewhere. So actually, there is a huge opportunity. I don't know where Bezos's deployment of this fund would be. Probably a lot of it in the US, quite frankly, because he doesn't want to get involved in all of the issues that will happen in Europe. But certainly, as it applied to Europe, this would have huge impact. But I guess the final thing I'd say on this is going to become, perhaps I would say, more than LLMs and what OpenAI and Anthropic are doing, who are basically taking lawyers' jobs and accountants' jobs that people, quite frankly, don't care about as much. This goes after the voter bases, like huge swathes of the population. 30 million jobs in the EU are in manufacturing, right? So this will become a massive political issue in a way that actually to date LLMs haven't been. I know they do, I know they are, but I think this will become a massive, cause massive upheaval over time.
I wonder how actively involved he is. I mean, he doesn't need the money. He could, swan around the world on his yachts.
All about, once you're Jeff, once like Elon, it's not about the money. No, it's about what they're addicted to, their passion is, what their legacy will be. This is just like in his lifeblood. This is what he do. He builds. He's a builder of extreme things.
It's a problem founders have, I think.
Harry's an example.
Yeah, the eternal itch. There he is. He sat with
Everyone's
us.
like, why aren't you just on a beach? So why'd you do this?
Harry, tell us, why aren't you just on a beach?
Look, I think you just want to build stuff, and it's bigger and bigger train sets at the end of the day. And this is a new train set for Bezos. So good on him. I think this is going to be a benefit to Europe. I mean, they do have a footprint in London and Zurich. As Lomax was saying, there's a lot of companies now struggling with margins. So, this is, I think, going to be a good thing for the tech side, which is obviously going to need to be brought into this mix, as well as kind of modernizing some of these factories. I think it's interesting on the kind of political side. Like, I would have thought there would have been way more doomers on this for Europe. I think just everyone's so focused on Iran at the moment. I think it's just not really hit the top of the headlines. So I think it's just, but I'm sure we'll probably see, some of the fears of this kind of going after kind of these manufacturing jobs. But at the end of the day, hopefully we can attract some of this capital to Europe, because if it doesn't modernize, then it's going to be done elsewhere. So this has got to happen in Europe, because otherwise they're just going to be displaced completely. So what's worse, that this all gets done in America or China, or Europe gets this kind of opportunity. And then of course for us VCs, hey, this is potential liquidity. So I think overall this is a positive thing, and it's validating just what we all believe, the size of this kind of physical, not just the bits, kind of opportunity with technology kind of slowly creeping in.
Loving it. It's funny how everything is now moving into the real world. Love it.
It's funny. A couple of decades. The only question I sort of that will time will tell, and this is an age-old question in tech, is: do you take 100 billion? Do you buy a bunch of old economy manufacturing companies and juice them with AI and robotics, or do you just start from scratch and go like, we're going to build the Airbus of the future? We're going to build, the defense company. We're going to build the Rheinmetall of the future.
It's got to be that. It's the only way to scale is that, right? It's got to be that. I can't see any other way of doing this strategy unless there is absolute, this is how we build tanks. This is how we build taps. I don't know what the things are, but I think this is going to be.
He seems to be going the former route. He seems to be buying incumbents and juicing them rather than actually going greenfield and from scratch.
Maybe it's simpler just to get around EU's planning laws. I mean, the fact is, they probably own the property, right? I mean, it's just a way to say here's a factory next to a train line.
They have IP. They have everything. It's just like
brand. I mean, maybe it's you've got the brand, you've got the physical location, and then you just put rebuild the whole thing with that. And I think that's what the plan is. I think it is to take in their full stack, right? So maybe it's a way of both of those things happening simultaneously,
but also very complicated.
And it can happen quicker.
If you've got like a certified thing like an aircraft, if you fundamentally rip out and change the manufacturing process, you almost have to like recertify the thing anyway, right? You know what I mean? Like, sometimes I wonder, you're better off just starting from scratch. But look, I mean, these are smart people who can figure it out, and but I'm sure time will tell. And that we know there are full stack companies going after new. I mean, look at Helsing. I know Helsing is doing some M&A, but they're going after, they're going after the defense sector in Europe, like from scratch.